This happened one night about 5 years ago. I had just finished work. It had been a pretty long day. At the time, I worked at a restaurant that stayed open pretty late, so I didn't get off work until nearly midnight. After leaving, I began driving back home, which usually took about 10 minutes. I lived in a quiet town, and the roads leading back to my house were pretty dark and quiet. Mostly, they were lined with farmland or woods on both sides. As I got closer to my neighborhood, I was driving down a quiet street near a wooded area. I saw a sign on the road that said construction detour, completely blocking where I needed to go. The sign had white and orange stripes and blocked the entire street. I couldn't go the normal way home, so I followed the detour, which pointed to the left. I made the turn, figuring it would connect to another street that led to mine. The road started to curve and became much quieter than the others. It was heavily surrounded by forest. I drove down this road for maybe a quarter mile, passing a few narrow driveways, until I saw what looked like a dead end. This had to be a mistake. Why would a detour lead to a dead-end road? My headlights were the only light, and as I got closer to the end, I noticed something. It was just woods in all directions, but then I saw a clown face looking at me. And then another. And another. When I got closer to the end of the road, I saw about 10 people, all wearing creepy clown masks. They were standing anywhere from 1 to 10 feet into the woods, like a herd of deer, all looking at me. I was instantly creeped out. I slammed on my brakes on the narrow road. I wanted to turn around, but there was no space to do so. So, I started backing up slowly, turning my car back and forth to make the U-turn. As I was doing this, some of the clowns started emerging from the woods. A few began walking toward me, maybe 100 feet away. I scrambled to go faster. Soon, the clowns started jogging toward me, one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. By the time I finally got my car turned around, they were now running at me. I hit the gas hard, and at least 5 clowns were sprinting toward my car. I got out of there before they caught up with me, went back to the other road, and drove until I found a longer way around the area that led back to my neighborhood. Eventually, I made it home shaken up and unable to believe what had just happened. The next day, when I went to work, there was no roadblock or construction at all. I was able to drive down the road that had been completely closed off without any problem. It makes me wonder, were the signs put there possibly by those clowns? Was it just a prank to scare drivers, or was it something worse? What would have happened if those clowns had caught up with me? I don't know, and I am glad I don't have to find out. This happened a few months ago. I was hanging out at my girlfriend's apartment one night and ended up staying kind of late to something that happened all the time. It wasn't a big deal because I only lived a few miles away, a short 10-minute drive back to my place. By now, the roads were very quiet, so that's how I noticed I might be getting followed. Not long into the drive, I noticed a car behind me. When I turned at one road, it did the same thing. I thought nothing of it at first, maybe coincidence. But as I made the next 3 turns, the car did the same each time. We were basically the only 2 cars on the entire road. The closer we got, the more I wondered if I was being followed. Of course, with it being late at night, I was probably feeling slightly paranoid. I didn't actually believe I was being followed, just curious. Then I came to a stoplight. There was a red one ahead at an intersection. Up to that point, I hadn't been able to see who was behind the wheel of the car behind me because it was too dark. But when I got to the intersection, there was more light. I looked back in my mirror and saw who was driving. The guy looked like a clown. His face was painted, his hair appeared dyed red, and he had a red nose on. It wasn't a funny clown, it just looked creepy. This was unsettling because it wasn't anywhere near Halloween or anything. I didn't know why someone would be out late at night dressed like a clown. When the light turned green, I kept going, the clown still following me. We made another turn, and I was a little more nervous. Soon we approached my apartment complex, several buildings with a large parking lot in the middle. As I pulled into the lot, the clown did too. That's when I realized I couldn't just park and try to go inside. So I kept going through the parking lot and turned out at the next area. When I did this, the clown didn't follow. He kept going farther into the parking lot. I let out a sigh of relief, got back onto the road, and figured it was just a big coincidence. For some reason, someone who lived at my apartment complex was dressed as a clown and happened to drive home right behind me the entire way. It was weird, but I figured I'd drive down a ways, come back, and then go inside. So I went to the end of that quiet street, made a U-turn, and headed back to the apartment complex. I made it back about 2 or 3 minutes after the clown would have arrived. I parked my car on the opposite end of the lot from where I had seen the clown go. He was nowhere in sight. After getting out of my car, I started walking toward my apartment building, and that's when I saw the guy again. The clown was now walking on a sidewalk near the front of one of the buildings. When he saw me, he changed directions and started heading straight for me. We were still a long distance apart, but I hightailed it for the side door of my apartment building. As soon as I started moving, I saw the clown start to run after me, which caused me to run too. I went as fast as I could and thankfully reached the door. I quickly went inside and made sure the door shut behind me. Then I ran up the stairs to my floor. I didn't hear the door opening behind me, so I assumed the clown didn't get in. I made it to my apartment and was finally safe. No knocks on my door or anything strange happened after that. Since then, I haven't seen that crazy clown again. I wonder who it was and why he followed me. Did he know who I was? Or was I just a random target? Obviously, I wouldn't recognize him unless he was dressed as a clown again. I'm hoping nothing like that happens again. For background, I live alone. My house is way out in the country, in a very quiet city. The street has no sidewalk, it's a cul-de-sac, and I'm toward the end of it. My house isn't that big, but everyone's yard is decent sized. Everything is more spread out, and I know most of my neighbors and most of them know me too. Going back to last year, it all started one night when I was at home late. I remember looking out one of the front windows, not sure exactly why, but I saw someone jogging down the street. It was a man somewhat tall and thin, jogging pretty slowly along the side of the road. He was looking around as he jogged like he was really taking in the scene around him. It wasn't like the typical jogger who focuses on running. He eventually disappeared out of my sight. Now, that's not necessarily strange, but it was unusual for my neighborhood. We literally never had joggers or people walking down the road. I knew this guy wasn't one of the neighbors. And for whatever reason, it seemed odd to me. Of course, there was nothing I could do about it. And ultimately, I didn't think it was anything. The most logical explanation was that he lived somewhere nearby or was staying with a neighbor. Still, it was strange that it was around 10 p.m. The next night, even a little later, I happened to notice the guy again. I promise you I don't just sit and stare out my front window all night. So, I don't know how I happened to see him 2 nights in a row. It gets worse, because I actually saw him again later that same night. This time, he was walking and again looking around at all the houses. He walked to the end of the cul-de-sac and then walked back. I still didn't think too much of it. By the next day, I had forgotten all about the guy. Now fast forward to the next night, I didn't see the jogging man again. That night, I had a normal evening, and when it got late, I went up to bed. My bedroom is upstairs at the back end of the house. I have a small window looking out to the backyard. Right as I was about to crawl into bed, I looked out the window and saw a guy standing there. He was walking along the back side of my yard, wearing a clown mask. He wasn't dressed as a clown. He had on dark-colored sweatpants and a sweatshirt, but he had this creepy clown mask over his face. Honestly, it kind of resembled Ronald McDonald, based on the build. I thought it might be the same guy who had been jogging around the neighborhood. The man continued walking, turned around, and went back the opposite way. Soon, he was out of sight, probably off my property. I decided to go downstairs and investigate. When I got down there, I looked out every window in the house. I didn't see the guy. I figured he was gone. I wasn't sure what that was all about. Why was a clown in my backyard? And was it really the same man who had been jogging around the neighborhood? Something fishy was going on. I stayed downstairs for a little while. I wasn't tired anymore, and I hate trying to sleep when I'm not tired. So I sat down on the couch and watched TV until I felt relaxed enough to go to sleep. I sat there for about 20 minutes when I heard a noise from the back end of the house. I got up and looked out a window, and the clown was back. Not only that, now he was at my back door, and it looked like he was trying to get inside. I had a gun at the time, but it was upstairs in my bedroom and locked up. I had never had to use it in my time living there. I should have brought it downstairs, but I forgot. Looking back, that makes me feel dumb. I went over to the door and yelled loudly that I had a gun and would shoot him if he broke in. I hoped that would scare him off. But his response was unexpected. Not only did he not go away, I heard the clown laughing from the other side of the door. It was that creepy laugh you'd expect from a scary clown. I ran upstairs to actually get my gun. By now, my adrenaline was pumping. I got into my room, grabbed the gun, and went back downstairs. When I arrived, the clown was gone. I opened the back door and looked around. I went all through the backyard, but he wasn't there. He must have finally run away. I called the police and reported a suspicious clown and possible attempted break-in. They came to my house, and I spoke with them for a while. After that night, he didn't return, and I also didn't see the jogging man either. I really think it was the same guy and that possibly he was scouting out the houses disguised as a jogger or something. And because that was really suspicious. This happened when I was much younger, back way before the clown trends of 2016 where everyone was dressing up as clowns. I was about 10 years old and lived with my parents and older sister. One night, I found myself home alone. I can't remember exactly where my sister was. But my parents were at a family gathering. It was something where I would have been really bored because I didn't stay home by myself too often. Our house and neighborhood were pretty normal. We had a small front yard and backyard. The street was generally quiet, but we had a good number of neighbors. After my parents left, I probably just watched TV in the living room and hung out. A few hours later, maybe around 9 o'clock p.m., I heard a noise. I couldn't tell what it was, but it sounded like it was coming from the front door area, maybe someone knocking or trying to unlock the door. I couldn't quite make out what exactly the sound was. After not hearing anything for a few seconds, I decided to check. I walked over toward the front door, and as soon as I passed it, I saw a clown standing there through the little window on the front door, a guy wearing a clown mask staring right into the house. I wasn't expecting that at all. I jumped back and ran all the way upstairs, grabbed the phone, and called my parents, but they didn't answer. I was really scared. Not hearing any more noises, I went to an upstairs window to look outside near the front door. When I did, the clown was gone. That made me feel a little better, so I went back downstairs and checked around again. Still no sign of him, so I returned to the couch and resumed watching TV. Sometime later, maybe 30 minutes, I got up to go into the kitchen. As I was walking past the back window, I saw him again. The clown was standing right on the other side of the window, looking into the house. As soon as I saw him, I turned and ran upstairs to my bedroom. I was terrified and didn't want to leave my room. Not long after hiding under my blankets, the phone rang. It was my parents calling back. I told them what was going on, and they said they were on their way home. I stayed in my room until they returned. When they got back, the clown was gone. My dad searched the entire property but couldn't find anyone. I was glad he was gone, but I still don't know why he was there. Maybe someone trying to be funny. But going into the backyard and looking through a window is a bit too far for a prank. After that night, I didn't want to stay at home alone for a long time. I live by myself now, and my house is out in the country a little bit. I haven't lived here for very long, about 2 years now. The backyard is very large, and most of it is taken up by woods. One night, the weather was nice, so I opened a back window to get a breeze in the room I was in. Later on, with the window still open, I heard a noise coming from what sounded like the edge of the woods. I walked over and looked outside, thinking maybe another deer was in my yard. What I saw instead shocked me: a man fully dressed as a clown from head to toe sprinting through the woods. He briefly came out of the trees before darting back in. He was running extremely fast, like a full sprint. He never looked over at me or my house, and I could see the long green hair from his clown mask blowing in the wind. After passing me, he continued deeper into the woods and was out of sight. I was left in shock. It was probably only about 3 seconds that I saw the guy because he was moving so fast. I kept watching out the window for a good amount of time, but didn't see him come back or hear anything else. An hour or so later, I was still curious, so I decided to go outside. I walked out the back door and stepped into the yard. There was an open space of grass before it was surrounded by woods. Outside, it was calm and quiet. I only heard leaves blowing in the wind. I walked around the backyard and even took a few steps into the woods. I didn't hear or see anything strange. Apparently, the clown had just run through, and that was it. He hadn't left anything behind or done anything else. I kept walking around and got to the side of my house. From there, I could see my next-door neighbor's house, which was a good distance away. That's when I saw something in the second-floor window of the clown. He was inside the house and looking at me. It gave me the creeps. I was pretty sure an older woman lived there, and didn't he know of anyone else who lived with her? I didn't think it was her pretending to be a clown. I had met her once, but didn't really know her. I figured she might have had someone over, maybe a kid or grandkid messing with me. After that, I went back inside. For the next few days, nothing strange happened, and I sort of forgot about the clown. Then, one day while outside near the front door, I saw my neighbor was also out. I remembered what had happened and decided to talk to her. I walked over and asked if anyone else lived with her or was staying with her several days ago. She said no. I told her about the clown and what I had seen. She told me she had no idea what that would have been because she was sure nobody was in her house. She also told me she had been gone that night. Hearing that freaked me out a little. I really didn't know how to explain it, and I still don't. Since then, I haven't seen the clown or anything else. My neighbor still lives there by herself, and she hasn't found any clowns or guys living there too. I'm not sure if the clown broke into her house that night or what. Either way, it was very strange.